Okay, we are in Yud Tes Amud Aleph 19a. We begin the Gemara's analysis of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah had a number of statements, 3, let's say in total. The first was a description of the actual offering, which is that the husband takes the flour out of the Egyptian wicker basket, puts it into the consecrated vessel, and gives it to his wife, to the Sotah, the suspected woman. Then the Kohen puts his hands under her hands. They wave it in all directions. Then the Kohen takes it and places it close to the altar. Then he takes the fistful, offers it on the temple, on the altar, and the rest is eaten by the Kohen. Statement 1. Point 2 is a dispute as to which one comes first, drinking the water and then offering the offering, which is the order as we learned it. We learned first about the drinking, and now we're learning about the offering. And there's Rabbi Shimon's view who says first the offering and then the drinking. And then finally, Rabbi Shimon says, even if you did it the reverse, it's still okay. So even though he maintains that the right way to do it is first offering, then drinking, but if drinking came first, still no problem. So now what the Gemara is going to get to is analyzing the first element, specifically the law that both the Kohen and the woman have to wave it together. That's what we're going to be looking at right now. And by way of introduction, when the Gemara tells us about this law, we're going to learn a little bit about rabbinic etiquette back in the old day, which is always interesting. These little tidbits that give you a window into history, into the people, not just their ideas. Says the Gemara, Omer le Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yoshia to Daria. Rabbi Lezer tells Rabbi, I think as you pronounce it, Yoshia, of, how do they have the Nukudot there? Yoshia, right?
Yoshia.
Yeah. So Rabbi Lezer tells Rabbi Yoshia of Daria, Loit Tesev Akara, don't sit down. Don't rest on your knee. Don't bend your knee. Stay here. Until you explain the following matter to me. This is how he's communicating. So Rashi tells us that the Gemara specifically tells us that it's a Yoshia of Daria to allow us to know why it is Rabbi Lezer speaking to him that way. Because there is another Rabbi Yoshia, which comes from an earlier generation, which is a scholar of a higher level than Rabbi Lezer, and Rabbi Lezer would never speak to him that way. Hey, don't go anywhere until you explain this to me. Therefore, the Gemara says, we're talking about a different Rabbi Yoshia of Daria. And he was a contemporary of Rabbi Lezer, and Rabbi Lezer didn't mind speaking to him that way. So we kind of see here the way the sages treated each other, and the way they, somewhat of a higher standing, they would speak a certain way, but their own friends, they had like this kind of rapport where one friend can say to another, hey, don't move, I got something for you. Can you please wait here? Say, don't move your knees. I want you to explain something to me. Kind of relationship.
Each other?
Sorry?
Did they also, some of them have nicknames?
Certainly.
One had big teeth, so they called them like
There's
big teeth.
definitely
They also had a double meaning, but they also meant something.
Yeah, often that's the case. Okay, so Rabbi Eliezer tells Rabbi Yosha to stay where he is. I want you to explain something to me. What should you explain? And Nayin Lemincha Sotah, from where do we know that the meal offering that the Sotah offers, Sheta'una Tenufa, where do we know? What's the verse that tells us that it requires to be waved? Before the Gemara gets to Rabbi Yosha's answer, the Gemara interjects the narrative and says, Minolan? Elazar is asking how we know that you have to wave the meal offering of the Sotah around. The Hainif Ksiv. The verse reads explicitly, and they shall wave it. So what's Rabbi Yosha asking? So the Gemara explains, Rabbi Yosha is asking very specifically, the Baalim Minolan. From where do we know that the owners of the offering, in this case, the woman, that she also has to do the waving? The verse explicitly states the Kohen has to wave it. Rabbi Lezer is stopping Rabbi Yosha and asking him to explain why it is, or where do we know that not just the Kohen has to do the waving, because he's the one that has to do the service, but that the owner, in this case, the woman, also has to wave the offering. Where do we know this? So Rabbi Yoshia answers Rabbi Lezer. He is invoking one of the 13 principles, which is the Gezerah Shava. The Gezerah Shava, one of the 13 principles we read every morning before Haidun at the morning service. The 13 principles is one of them is the Gezerah Shava. We've talked about it before. And the Gezerah Shava is a principle that when when one word appears in two different set of laws, because they share a common word, these two laws teach each other something about each other. And I mentioned before that one cannot just open up scripture and find two words randomly and say, oh, look, the same word appears in two different places. I'm going to start deriving laws from each other. Gezerah Shava is only when there's a tradition going back to Moshe Rabbeinu that Gezerah Shava is to be done here. But the tradition may not be so detailed. The tradition could be, look, these two laws have a Gezerah Shava, go figure out which word and which laws. Or sometimes they're very specific. These are the words, these are the laws that are derived from each other. But a Gezerah Shava can only be done when there's a tradition that goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu. But the basic principle is, if the same word is employed in two different places, it's because they have a common meaning. And if they have a common meaning, there's common laws. That's the basic principle. Yeah, clear? We talked about this in more detail in a previous class. Okay, so what's the Gezerah Shava? Asya, we derive yad yad, the word yad, which means hand, and the word hand, which appears, number one, it appears here in the verse discussing the law of the Sotah, and also it appears mishlamim in the laws of the shlamim offering.
What offering?
Shalomim. Shlamim. There's different types of offering, specifically three, there's asham, chatas, shlamim, and oila. But for the purposes of our conversation, we'll just contrast the shlamim and the oila. The oila offering, which means the oila means to go up. The oila offering is a kind of offering which is completely burdened on the altar, where only God, so to speak, eats the offering. Or the altar eats the offering. Shlamim, one of the meanings of the word shlamim means complete. It could also mean shalom, peace. It's a peace offering. Why is it a peace offering? Because everyone gets a piece of the action. The owners eat something, the altar eats something, and the Kohen eats something. Now, the shlamim, ksiv, also has the word, yad also has the word hand. So by the law of the Sotah, there's the word hand, and by the law of the shlamim offering, the peace offering, there's the word hand. It's a sin offering. That would be a sin offering, which has its own set of laws. The beginning of Chumash Vayikra describes all the various different kinds of offerings, and then later on in the book it tells you this is like that one, 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 and when there's exceptions. But if you look at the beginning of Vayikra, right at the beginning, they'll go through one by one what are the various different kinds of offerings, and then later I'll tell you when to apply which one. Right?
I'm sure there's charts on these things.
Yes, but the laws of offerings are some of the hardest laws. I'm just saying. It's very intrinsic, very detailed. And is any Kleenex? No, okay, thank you. If you have a chart there, you can bring it in, but they're very detailed. And
what's help when you have like visual aids for me?
Especially since they're, first of all, because we're not familiar with it, we don't experience it on a daily basis. Like tefillin, we experience it on a daily basis. So learning about it would be
so easily because we're not practicing.
That's right. So it's all theoretical, and also to find principles that run across all these different types of laws, and there's all kinds of exceptions to the rule. It's a competition between the laws of offerings and the laws of purity and impurity. Oh, the new index one might have charts, yeah.
Because he has a lot of those kind of things in his book.
That's the whole book. The whole thing is to have charts and summaries. Thank you.
Great. It encapsulates the Rambam.
Yeah.
There's no documentation.
All right.
It chunks it all into like solid.
I never read it. I thought it was PEACE, not PIE.
It is PEACE. It is peace because it brings peace between everybody.
Yeah.
I was using a pun because everybody gets a piece of the action, but actually it means peace because it brings peace between all the parties. It brings it brings peace between the owner, the Kohen, and the altar. No one's jealous of each other because they all get an equal share. That was my suggestion. No, that was my pun. But it means peace as in PEACE, as in that it brings peace between all the various parties. Okay, so Ksiv Hacha, the verse reads here with respect to the law of the Sotah, the Lokach HaKoyim Yad Isha, that the Kohen takes the meal offering from the hand of the woman. The word, highlighting the word here, hand. Now in this case,
In this hand.
in this case, it's the Kohen who's holding it. Okay, because it says the Kohen takes it from the hand of the woman. Now the Ksis Hasam, it stays there with respect to the law of the Shlomim, the peace offering, Yadav to Vienna. His hand, the owner's hand, shall bring it. So we have the word hand appearing in the law of the Sotah, which describes the Kohen doing the waving, even though we're talking about the woman's hand. But it says he takes it from her hand. So the word hand appears in the law of the Sotah, where the Kohen, where the verse states explicitly that the Kohen does the waving. And then we have a verse by the peace offering, which also has the word hand, and there it describes the owner doing the waving. So therefore, it says the Gemara, they teach each other a law, namely, Makan Kohen, just as it is over here with the law of the Sotah, the Kohen does the waving, Aflahalan, so too over there by the Shlomim, by the peace offering, also Kohen does the waving. Now, Malahalan Bailan, just like over there by the Shlomim, explicitly the verse says that the owners do the waving, Avkan Bailam, so too here the owners do the waving. So Kate said, how do you satisfy both of these things? One verse says Kohen does the waving, one verse says the owners do the waving, and they're supposed to learn to each other, which means each of them pick up the law of the other.
So they both have to do it.
So they both have to do it. Okay. So Maniach Yoda Tachas Yidea Bailam, the Kohen places his hands under the hands of the owner, Umenif, and he waves it around. And thus we derive that by the law of the Sotah, as well as by the law of the Shlomim, both have to wave. So it's not just the law. So
One of
By
them
this-
will not.
that's right. By the Sotah, it says that the Kohen waves it, but we derive from the Shlomim that the owner, the woman, also has to wave it. And by the law of the Shlomim, it says that the owner waves it, but we derive from the law of the Sotah that the Kohen also has to.
One
So in all cases-
fits to the other.
That's right. In the case of the Shlomim, it's a certain part of the animal that they wave together. The chaz of a shoik, right? The chaz is like the nun.
Which one?
Chaz. I'm going blank on the English translation. What's the chaz of a shoik again? Let me look it up here.
Observe.
Chaza.
Observe is a pit.
No, this is with the hey at the end, not a resh. Hey, going blank, it's me. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's two parts of the animal that have to be woven around, I should say, sorry.
The breast
Right, the breast, and that's the
and
chaza,
the thigh.
and the thigh, that's the shock. There you go, breast and the thigh, thank you.
I don't know which thigh it is. Now. Is it the fourth? It's the front right thigh.
Right, the chest and the thigh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I went blank over there.
Four limbs.
On a cow?
Yeah.
Thigh is always the back, the front is called hands. The front is called hands.
Hands?
Uh,
Hands of the cow?
That's what they're referred to, like in halakha, you want to distinguish between the front and the back.
Four limbs.
4 limbs, but I think in Hebrew, I think in the halakha literature, they're referred to as the hand.
Right rear. The right.
I don't remember exactly. Anyway, okay,
Wrong.
a few more lines. So now the Gemara is going to get to that phrasing, that awkward phrasing that I mentioned when we read the Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to clarify it for us. So the language of the Mishnah is as follows. It describes first the proceeding of the offering itself, which we just described earlier. The husband takes it out of the wicker basket, puts it into the consecrated vessel, gives it to his wife, and then the Kohen together with his wife wave it. Then it's brought to the altar, and then there's the kmitza taking a fistful, and then there's the actual burning it on the altar. Right now, after that, the Mishnah says the following line, exact reading. Haya mashke, she would drink, and afterwards, makar fes minchasa, he would offer the offering, the meal offering. So it sounds like from the Mishnah describing first the meal offering, and then it says she drinks, and then it says she does meal offering, almost as if there's 2 meal offerings.
Right.
So the Gemara says like
talking about the kmitza comments.
it talks about the kmitza,
Then it says drink.
and then it says off. No, it says kmitza, the fist. It says the hikdir. It says offering, and then it says drink, and then it says offering again.
Where does he put that kmitza then?
On the altar.
Drinks.
On the altar.
Well, then in that case.
So the Gemara is asking like, what's going on?
The drink.
That's right. So the Gemara says how akrave, it's already been offered. So why is the Mishnah repeating itself? But after she drinks, he offers. Almost like offer, drink, and then offer. It's already been offered before. What are you repeating?
Once you take that fistful, unless you put it in
That's
the
right.
vessel, are you just holding it?
So the whole thing looks on. No, well, it already says it's offered. The Gemara asks how
Right,
akav
it
it.
already says
It's already been offered before she
There were
drank.
two opinions, right?
One second, but this is all the first opinion. This is all the first opinion talking about this. We're talking about the phrasing of the Mishnah. The Mishnah describes the offering
No,
of the Sotah woman, concludes by saying it's offered on the altar, and then says she would drink, and then they would do the offering. You just told me about the offering. And then drink, and then offering again. It's strange.
He's holding it.
No, it says offered. It says offered. It even says that the Kohen eats the rest. The offering is over. And then it says drink, and then it says offering again. So what's going on? So explains the Gemara, you have to divide the Mishnah into two paragraphs and put a period, not a comma. Namely, Hachik Omer, here's how you should read the Mishnah. Say the Menachas Ketzad, the order of the offering, how is it done? So the Mishnah then says, hey, if they wave it, Vehigish, he brings it closer to the altar, Vakamatz, he takes a fistful, Hikter, he offers it on the altar, Vashar Nachal Kohen, and the rest is eaten by the Kohen. Period. That's the first half of the Mishnah. Then the next part of the Mishnah is introduction of a new statement. Uvashak al gufa, and when it comes to the drinking itself, there's a dispute between Rabbi Shimon and the sages. Meaning to say, when the Mishnah says she would drink and then the offering was done, it's not a continuation of the previous statement that describes the offering. Now that we've described the offering and you know what to do, now let's get back to the order of the offering vis-a-vis the drinking we mentioned in the last chapter. But not that it's one long flow of a statement. Offering, drinking, offering. It's offering. Now you know how it goes? Put that aside. So we have two elements. We have the drinking from last chapter. We have the offering from this chapter. Which one comes first? And then the Mishnah reads, drink and then offering. Other opinion, offering then drink. So it's not one run-on sentence that describes offering, drinking, offering, but rather a description of the offering in detail, period, next paragraph. Now that we discussed the law of the offering and we discussed in the last chapter, the law of the drinking, now we're going to tell you which one comes first. And there's the dispute. Following?
Okay, so one was just a description of the offering. Put that aside, and now
we're opening a new statement.
Procedure.
That's correct. Now we're opening. Now that you know what the offering looks like, now let's begin a new issue. Which one comes first? That's correct. But not that it's it's not one run-on sentence, which is offering, drink, offering.
Right.
It's offering. Now that you know there's an offering, which one comes first? Answer, drinking. And then the other opinion. That Rabbanan Sabri, the sages are of the opinion, mashka, she drinks, va'achakach makar, then they offer, as menchasa, the meal offering. But Rabbi Shimon Savar, Rabbi Shimon's of the view, makar, first the offering, is menchasa, the meal offering, va'achakach, and only afterwards, mashka, she drinks. Shenemar, as the verse reads, va'achar yashka, the verse reads, after the offering, then she drinks. So God willing, on Monday, we're going to discuss what are the sages thinking. The verse seems to explicitly state that the drinking comes after the offering. So why would the sages maintain, and this is indeed the halacha, that drinking comes first and then offering?
Says,
so that we'll get to on Monday, God willing.
Rabbi Shimon says, first you do the offering and then you drink, then she drinks. Right?
Which is the description of the verse. The verse reads, quote, the kohen will take a fistful, offer it on the altar, and after give the woman to drink the water.
This is like,
Va'achar yashka, it seems pretty explicit that the drinking comes after. So the Gemara is going to have to address the sages and explain why they maintain. And indeed, this is the halacha.
Wasn't it what you said?
Why they maintain? Yes. So I alluded to that already. But the Gemara is going to discuss that in more detail on Monday.
All right. That's what that was saying.
We'll get there. Okay, wonderful day, Eden, and a good Ner Shabbos.
See you.